When we complain about some of the old strikers that end up at West Ham United, I can't help but wonder as to why we always seem to get the strikers who are well past their sell by dates and are injury prone and don't deliver. Yet I look at teams like Brighton and Nottingham Forest, and I wonder why, when they get strikers who are seemingly coming to the end of their careers, the complete opposite seems to be happening. Maybe I'm being a bit flippant, I don't know. But when you look at the likes of Chris Woods, is a great example. At 33 and somewhat of a footballing journeyman, he went to Nottingham Forest on loan from Newcastle, did well, and then the deal was made permanent in 2023, and Forest paid £15 million for the player. And they also spent about £3 million for him to go on loan as well. But in total, they spent about £18 million on getting the player in. And after a year and a half, or since 2023, he scored a total of 35 goals for the club. This season alone, 19 goals for the 33-year-old striker. And why is he having so much success? Well, it's quite easy, really. It's not rocket science. The team just play to his strengths, get the ball to him, and he'll score. And the same, in a way, goes for Danny Welbeck. Now, I remember Welbeck when he played for Man United. I always thought he was a very, very decent footballer. Also, a fantastic player for England. 16 goals in 42 appearances is nothing to be sniffed at. So it kind of surprised me when Man United agreed to move him on and sold him to Arsenal. But at Arsenal, he had a modest career, 126 appearances, 32 goals, 13 assists. And then he went to Watford. And it seemed that his top flight career was kind of over. But in 2020, Graham Potter and Carl Macaulay identified Welbeck as a good fit for Brighton. And as he was coming up, he was about a month before his 30th birthday, he signed for the club on a free transfer. Now, since then, with 157 appearances behind him, he's scored 36 goals and 14 assists. Now, sure, he's had his fair share of injuries, but when he returns, he's a model professional and does the all-important job for this club, and still doing it as he's cut. And I think he's now 35 years old. This season alone, he's scored 10 goals with 4 assists in all competitions. He's scored the same number of goals that Jared Bowen has scored for West Ham United. And we believe Bowen is rightly invaluable to us. So I dare say the Brighton fans think very much the same of Danny Welbeck. And if we get a Welbeck type player to West Ham next season who can perform anywhere near to the levels that either Chris Wood or Danny Welbeck have done, then I'll be very, very happy indeed. 2 players in their mid-30s who clearly still enjoy playing football without all the ego that many players carry around them like heavy baggage. If Potter and Macaulay can get a striker in who can deliver in a similar fashion, then I, for one, won't be complaining. Now, having said that, perhaps we already have a player like that amongst our ranks. And that, of course, is Niclas Fullkrug. But in order to ensure that he's successful, we've got to play to his strengths. And we've got to be setting him up to have goal-scoring opportunities, just like Forest are doing with Wood and Brighton are doing with Welbeck. And I dare say, if we do that, for whatever time he remains at the club, whether it's till the end of this season or whether it's next season as well, I think he'll score a hatful of goals for us. But of course, he's also got to stay fit. I'll come back to Fullkrug in a moment, because this video, this show, is all about the preview of West Ham's game on Saturday away to Brighton. And we've got to hope that we can emulate the away form performance that we put in against Liverpool a few weeks ago, rather than repeating the turgid home performance against Southampton last weekend. To be fair, under Potter, for some reason, our away performances have generally been an awful lot better than the ones at home. As for Brighton, they will be hoping for their first league win since the 8th of March when they beat Fulham 2-1. Which was the culmination of 6 winning games in a row. That was throughout February and the beginning of March. Now, since that game against Fulham, they got knocked out of the FA Cup and they've lost 3 league games and drawn 1. Their draw coming against Leicester, Their defeats coming against Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, and last weekend's 4-2 defeat against Brentford. Now, ironically, over the past 5 league games, our form has been marginally better than Brighton's. Brighton, 3 defeats, 2 draws. West Ham, 2 defeats, 3 draws. It's a bit of a mixed bag, a bit of a mixed season for Brighton this season. With 5 games to go, mathematically, they can still make Europe, but the chances of achieving that are getting slimmer. They're 10th in the league at the moment on 48 points, with Aston Villa 9 points ahead of them and in 7th place. So they've got a way to go to actually get into Europe next season. Now, since our last meeting with Brighton back in December, where we drew 1-1, we have steadily gone backwards. And now, of course, as we all know, we find ourselves in 17th place in the league. It's been an awful season, one to completely forget. But mathematically, just to be safe from relegation, we still need 1 point ourselves in order, out of the last 5 league games, in order to ensure that we don't slip any further down. But mind you, Ipswich have got to win all their games to make that remotely happen. But then we've still got a superior goal difference as well. So I can't really see it happening, but it would just be nice, you know, mentally to have that 1 point just to know that we're completely safe. Brighton manager, Fabian Hertzler, is going to be without João Pedro after his sending off against Brentford last weekend. The £30 million striker who signed from Watford has been a key player for Brighton this season after scoring 10 goals with 7 assists so far. So he's clearly going to be a big miss for them this coming weekend. Another player who will almost certainly miss the game is Jan-Paul Van Hecke, who collided with Brentford midfielder Younes Konak late in the game last week. He was taken to hospital as a precaution, but was later released. The centre-back has been a mainstay in Brighton's defence this season, so he's going to be another big miss for them. Now, in fairness, Hertzler has had a catalogue of injuries to deal with this season. Karu Mitoma started on the bench for Brighton after his own recent recovery from injury, but he will almost definitely be João Pedro's replacement in the starting lineup against West Ham this weekend. The 27-year-old Japanese international has been another key figure for the team with 9 goals and 3 assists so far. Now, Mitoma did score against Brentford last weekend before Brighton's capitulation in stoppage time. Now, they could also be missing Turkish left-back Ferdi Kadioglu, who creates quite a few goals, along with defenders Joel Veltman, Igor Julio, and Tariq Lamptey. So is this a good time to be playing Brighton, given all the injuries that they've got? I'm not so sure. They still have an awful lot of creativity and an awful lot of goal threat within their team. I've mentioned veteran striker Danny Welbeck. He's their second top goal scorer this season with 9 Premier League goals and 10 in all competitions. Attacking players, Yankubu Minte and Jorginho Rutter, have 5 goals each and 7 assists between them. Now, Hertzler is an exciting young coach, and he's gotten Brighton to play some very attractive football this season. He will adapt his formation and tactics accordingly, having used 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, and sometimes a unique 4-2-2-2 formation over time. They have an interesting approach where their 2 front men will often drop deep, quite deep, almost into midfield roles. And then they've got the 2 wide men either side, which makes it difficult for opposition defenders to decide how to get the ball to our midfielders. And that could cause a problem for our defence this coming Saturday. We haven't got the best passing players. We should have. Kilman is meant to be, Todibo's meant to be, Wan-Bissaka's meant to be, but this might cause us a bit of an issue this coming Saturday in the way that Brighton set themselves up. What Potter has done is certainly improved our defence in terms of not conceding as many goals as we were under Moyes when he was here at the tail end of his tenure, and also under Lopetegui. But we're still conceding goals, and now, despite having stopped conceding goals early in games, we're now conceding goals quite late in games. And it's the lapses of concentration that are a bit of a problem for us at the tail end of each game. We had a late goal conceded against Liverpool, and we also had a late goal conceded against the mighty Southampton last weekend. Now, Brighton used their wide players to great effect. And left-sided wide player Karu Mitoma, who I've already mentioned, is an excellent talent. And then, of course, they've got central midfield, quite combative as well, with the powerhouse Carlos Baleba, who tries to control and dictate the pace of the game. And this could be, it's either going to be in the width or it's going to be in central midfield where the game could be won or lost on Saturday. On the flanks, I think we're probably going to have enough to keep them busy, with the likes of Wan-Bissaka, and whether Emerson or Scarles plays on the width. I think we've got enough players to keep them busy. Kudus, of course, and Bowen further up front. But what needs further improvement is a more mobile and quicker central midfield. And against Brighton, we may find ourselves a little bit under the cosh if we do not move the ball fast enough. We've already heard in pre-match press conference that we're going to be without Edson Alvarez again, as Potter confirmed during the conference that the player was still out with a back injury. So it will be interesting to see if Potter reinstates Souček over Soler or keeps Soler in the middle of the park. Now, we've heard an awful lot about Alvarez this week, haven't we? We've heard about, him refusing to play when he was told he was going to be on the bench against Southampton last weekend. We've heard that he's been told he can find a new club and so on and so forth. I don't know. There's so much being said about players at West Ham United at the moment. It's making your head spin and you don't really know what is and isn't true. But going back to the game, Souček himself, if he's selected, may not have the technical grace that a lot of fans demand, but he is competitive and he is a good, he's a good player to break up opposition's play. So I think Souček is likely to get the nod. Now, we know in defence, we welcome back Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who should be replacing Soufal on the right-hand side of defence. Now, it's difficult to know whether Potter is going to decide to go with a back five or whether he's going to go with a back four. And that's mainly because of what I've just said about our central midfield being a little bit lightweight. Potter may want to fill out the midfield a little bit more. So if he does that, it'll be a back four. And the back four, of course, will be Wan-Bissaka on the right, Scarles on the left, Todibo and Kilman as a central pairing. Now, in midfield, as I've said, it's going to be challenging. And I really do think, I've already said, that Souček, I think, will be returning to the lineup. And I think he'll line up alongside Ward-Prowse and Lucas Paqueta. Now, that will allow Potter to select the likes of Jarrod Bowen and Mohamed Kudus to play either side of Fullkrug if he goes with a four at the back. But if Potter decides that he wants a five at the back, then I can see maybe Aaron Cresswell coming into the team, coming in as a left-sided centre-back. And that could be at the expense of a striker, meaning that Fullkrug may drop to the bench. Now, many fans would argue that they would prefer the German instead of Kudus, who simply hasn't delivered this season. But if Potter does drop Fullkrug to the bench, many fans are going to suggest that this is punishment for Fullkrug speaking out during his post-match interview after the game last weekend. I don't think that would be the case. I think it'd be a more tactical reason than it would be to punish the player. Now, Potter was challenged about Fullkrug's comments and was asked if he agreed with the player's sentiment. Now, the diplomatic Potter gave the answer that I'm sure most of us would have expected. He said that Fullkrug was entitled to his opinion and he agreed on some aspects and disagreed with others. Now, he didn't elaborate as to which bits he agreed with and didn't agree, but that was a fairly, diplomatic response. Now, Potter went on to suggest that the things that Fullkrug said were in the heat of the moment. He said that football, it's a passionate game, and that can bring out passionate reactions. Potter also stated that these conversations were really best to have in private than out in public. Now, Potter was questioned further about that, and one reporter was asking, why should this be kept private? Why not tell us? Why should he tell you and not tell the public or the press. Now, I thought that was a bit of a cheeky question, to be honest with you. Look, yes, of course, it was a breath of fresh air to find the player being so honest and open, but Potter didn't fall for that trap. Potter quite rightly said, he could alluded to, you don't do your dirty, he didn't say these words, but you don't do your dirty laundry out in public. You have these discussions behind closed doors and sort out the problem in that way. I kind of agree with that, to be honest with you, even though we all like the fact that Fullkrug was very honest in his interview. Now, what I found most intriguing about Potter's pre-match press conference was how he kind of repeated several times how the past 18 months has caught up with the players, and that this was the main reason why the performances have not been so great. Potter reminded us that in the last 40 odd games, we've conceded 80 goals and scored just 50, a deficit of 30 goals. He went on to suggest that there's a lot of baggage being carried from the past season and a half. That's really interesting. So basically, he's saying under David Moyes and under Julian Lopetegui, it's been pretty bad. Now, is this the clearest indication yet that the only way to get rid of the baggage is to move the players on to pastures new this coming summer? That's certainly how I've interpreted it. So there may well be the clear out that a lot of people are talking about, and moving players on from the Moyes and Lopetegui era. And then with Potter perhaps looking for a clean slate to start again with virtually a whole new squad of players to handle. Anyway, back to this Saturday's game against Brighton. With what Potter has said about baggage, are we likely to see a better performance from the team to the one against Southampton last week? I kind of think we will, because as mentioned earlier, we seem to be playing better away from home than we do at the London Stadium. Perhaps the players use the away support as encouragement to give them that little bit extra, where the players are not getting that kind of encouragement from the home crowd. But will it take a whole half of football before we even turn up against Brighton? I hope not, because if we don't perform from the off, then by half time, Brighton could be a couple of goals ahead. As mentioned, we have to keep their wide players busy and we have to be combative in central midfield. That's why I'm kind of struggling with what formation Potter is going to go for this weekend. If we fill out the midfield, it will sacrifice possibly playing with wing-backs. That'll give Brighton momentum on the wings to do damage. Play with wing-backs and fill out the midfield is likely to mean sacrificing a striker from the start. Play with wing-backs and play with a striker could mean that we'll be weak in midfield. It's a tough one to call. Potter himself is likely to already know that we can't really compete. The players that he's got can't really compete in midfield in the way that he wants us to. So he could well go with a wing-back system to keep Brighton too busy. Keep Brighton, we've got Bowen and Wan-Bissaka on one side. We could have Scarles or Emerson and Kudus on the other side. Maybe he's hoping by doubling up, the central midfielders of Brighton will have to go out and support their wide players in order to open up gaps in the middle of the park. I don't know. It's a possibility. Look, I've got two teams and I really can't decide what formation it's going to be. So here's my first one. And this is a back three, a back five, whatever you want to call it. With Areola in goal, Todibo, Kilman, and Cresswell as the three centre-backs. And then you'll have Wan-Bissaka and Scarles out wide. And then the centre three of Souček, Ward-Prowse, and Paqueta. And then the two up front being Kudus and Bowen. Now, I know you're going to go, why Kudus? Why not Fullkrug? And that's a possibility. But I think if Potter goes with a back five or a 3-5-2 formation or a 3-4-3, whatever you want to call it, then I think that's possibly the lineup he's going to go for. And then if he does go with a back four, I think Cresswell would be on the bench. So you'll have Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman, and Scarles at the back, with the three in the middle being, again, Souček, Ward-Prowse, and Paqueta. And then the two supporting attacking players, either side of Fullkrug, being Bowen and Kudus. So it's one of those two. You decide. It's either a back three or a back five, whatever you want to call it, or it's a back four. The back four would include Fullkrug in the team. The back five would put Fullkrug on the bench. Look, it's going to be, I think it's going to be an entertaining game. And always, I never predict a defeat because I'm stupid that way. My head says, with recent form of both these teams, I can see this being like a draw, 1-1, 2-2 maybe. But my heart says that we need a break. And these away performances need to bring success sooner or later. We have played pretty well away from home against Chelsea, against Arsenal, against Aston Villa, against Newcastle, etc. You know, we have had decent games away from home. And I think sooner or later, one of those games is going to bring us a win. And I'm predicting with my heart that we're going to win 2-1 on Saturday and finally get another win to sort of cheer about. Look, if you've enjoyed the content, as I said, and you've not become a subscriber of the West Ham Voice, do consider subscribing. Costs nothing to subscribe, and all the content is free. And whether you are an existing subscriber or a new subscriber or just passing through and have enjoyed the content, please do hit the like button as well. Tell me what you think about the lineup. Who would you like to see starting? What do you think the score is going to be? Put your comments below the video and I'll respond to them as I always do. And I will see you all soon. I'll be at the game, of course, so I'll bring you a post-match review straight after the game with Wiggy and the various other lads that are going to be there. So look out for that as well. Until then, I'll see you all soon.